Scrappy Peeps, Suzanna here today with my latest two-page sketch. This is another sketch-inspired sketch from the 6x6 paper pads sketch course that I'm taking with Allison Davis from Scrapbook Generations. So that was the left page, this is the right-hand page, and this is the first time that I actually am using a 6x6 paper pad, I believe. Well, there's a couple of others, but this one I am solely using 6x6 paper. So I always tape my pages together. That was the sketch. Again, I can't pause it and show it to you because it is a proprietary sketch that we've paid for. But there are 10 photos. There are 3 4x4 photos, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 3x3s, and then 2 2x2s. And I pre-printed those all ahead of time. I now have the Dear Lizzie New Day 6x6 paper pad, and I liked the colors because it had pink and red as well as green and yellow, which are the colors of the sunflowers based on and the clothes that my daughter and I are wearing. This is a Echo Park. I wanted that sun flare-y color, and then this is Bella Boulevard Popsicles and Pandas. I wanted a little bit more yellow pulled into the collection, as well as some green. That green that comes with the Dear Lizzie is kind of more of a yellowy green, and I wanted a little bit more of a true green, but just a hint of it because there's a lot of green in the photos. So I am going to trim down all of these squares to 4x4, and the sketch calls for basically, it's all 4x4 squares. Some have the photos nestled in them, some are the 4x4 photos, and they are sort of ski-wampus all across the page. Initially, I wasn't sure about this sketch, to be honest, because it had different size photos, and all of the squares overlapped each other, and they were ski-wampus, and I just wasn't sure how that was going to provide unity, but it comes together really nicely, and I'm actually really pleased with how it turns out. So and what I'm doing now is I had played with the placement of the photos already in Photoshop, but now what I'm doing is figuring out which pattern papers, pardon me, I'm going to use to back which photos. And it's interesting how dark pattern papers pull out the light and in the photos differently, and it's also interesting to me how the different colors of those pattern papers also pull out a different light in the photo. For example, that one of my daughter right there, actually the sunflower, it needed that darker paper to really make the color pop, but that white border is almost that photo itself pops just by itself, and that's all your eye is drawn to on the page. And so you'll see later that I actually get rid of that white border, but I pre-printed the white border around everything because it was easier to trim off the border than not have the border and decide that I wanted the border. So in this particular piece of pattern paper, I really wanted the square to be on the diagonal, and I wanted that in the center rather than just randomly cutting it. So there was a little bit more planning involved in that particular 4x4 square. So I cut more than the required number of squares, knowing that I wanted to layer this up some, and also knowing that I would probably not use one, and that was okay. So there's that random blue piece there. I really wanted just a shot of blue because there is actually blue in that pattern piece of pattern paper. I keep stumbling over that sunflower is on. There's that same sort of sky blue color, and so I wanted that to match with the blue and just pull a little bit of that out, as well as to go with the blue that's in the sky in all of these photos. So I have pulled out some ThermoWeb double-sided tape, and I laugh every time I use it because somebody heard me say that I like it because it's terrible, and not because it's terrible terrible, but because it's very well rippable terrible. And so I still maintain that I love this tape because it rips well. I don't need to cut it. I can just literally rip the tape and go ahead and use it. I also, and you'll see this later on, that where I use this double-sided tape from ThermoWeb, things stick really, really well. So definitely not a tape that you want to use if you are going to pull elements up. I like to use this double-sided tape when I'm using foam. I used to always use the ThermoWeb Ultra Bond Liquid Adhesive, but it's actually slid off of a couple of my fun foams on the back of my photos. So I am now using this double-sided tape and it works superb. Again, like I said, you'll see I made a mistake in the placement of that tape in that first photo that I put down, the 4x4 top right on the left-hand side. So me and my daughter without masks. I had intended for that to be a pocket. So I had put the tape on what I thought was the right and the left-hand side so that I could slide a tag back behind there, but I didn't. And you'll see more of that later. So I'm rearranging some of the photos. I know I want to pop some of these photos up off of the squares, and so I'm trying to find the best way to get all of the colors evenly distributed throughout the page as it moves across the page, as well as have an even distribution of the popped photos. I don't want them to be all clustered in that bottom left corner or the top right corner or whatever. So as I'm committing to the placement and the photo, I'm going to go ahead and stick that down. If it's not on foam, typically it's just going to, I'm just going to use my dot and ruler from Gina K. I did a terrible job cutting this here, and so there's going to be a very difficult border to get to because my adhesive is right on the edge, and so I can't slide my scissors in to get that fun foam cut down to the size that I want. So that piece that's a picture of me that my right hand was on with the red headband and hat. That photo I am not going to adhere down because as I was designing it, I thought I was going to hand stitch around the edges, and then the purple on the far right with my daughter and I holding the sunflowers, that is not going to get adhered down either because both of those I was going to hand stitch, and the sketch calls for hand stitching, as well as the photo with the sunflowers that is going to go above the titles right there where that stripy pink and red stripy is. That's hand stitching. I wasn't going to hand stitch there, but I did want to do those other two, and so I didn't tack them down, and they keep moving on me, and it got really frustrating, but I knew if I tacked them down that I would never go and do the hand stitching. And I actually never did do the hand stitching because I found some dies that they were stitched, faux stitched in the die, and I like it, but it's really subtle and probably too subtle for this, but I just went with it. So this is where I decide that I am going to leave the white borders on the photos of my daughter by herself, the two of those, and me by myself. And then there's a teeny tiny white border around the sunflower backs on that top right there that I haven't cut out. And then I'm going to get rid of the white borders on the rest of them. And the reason I did that was because there was too much delineation with all of those white borders, and it just, there wasn't a flow across the page because you just got stuck on all of these white borders. And it also changed the look of the pictures. So by leaving it with just the individual person, it pulled the layout together better and created more cohesiveness. So this is where I'm going to go with a much thinner border, and I'm going to double border this picture. I'm going to put a little bit of green around it, and I like the way that the white border with that little shot of green, that's also Bella Boulevard, is going to pop the yellow that is in the photo there. So that was a 4x4 square that I just cut down, and then see how in that black and white it pops. I really like it. So that is going to be all of the photos where I want them on the pattern papers that I want them. So now it is just time to embellish it. And so I have pulled out a stack of embellishments from, let's see, I'm going to use Photo Play Cluck on You, the element stickers for that, and Dear Lizzie New Day, And then also crepe paper here and there. I'm going to pull out those three things because the colors coordinate, as well as I want a little bit more black in the embellishments there. So these are the three photos that are going to be popped. Two are on fun foam. One is just on ThermoWeb Gina K double-sided foam tape. And that is how the layout is going to look before it is embellished. So you can see that the photo with the sunflower in the bottom center, that particular pattern paper crosses both edges. So I am going to have to take my X-Acto knife and trim that down from the back side. But I will do that after I take my pictures so that you will see that. So these are all the goodies that I got. You can see those letter stickers as well as more of these October afternoon rub-ons that I've used in a previous layout. I really like the way that those rub-ons on the edges of some of the photos kind of provide a grounding spot for them, and you'll see what I mean by that. So again, I'm going to mix them all up. I'm going to go with the color schemes of all of these pattern papers. So really it's going to be that purpley red, greens, hues of green, and yellow are the embellishment colors that I'm going to go with, as well as that blue. So that cloud right there. So where that blue Bella Boulevard is between those two photos on the left-hand page, that is definitely going to be my journaling spot. And then that green where the scooter is, that is from here and there. That is going to be where my title is going to go. And so I'm just going to layer up embellishments. Now on this sketch, there are three clusters. One is on the top left photo. There's stars there. So that's the photo of my daughter in the sunflowers on the top left with the yellow border. And then there's more stars around that 2x2 photo of the sunflower backs on the top right. And then there's some more stars in that title cluster is where Allison has her embellishments, but I'm just putting them where I want to because I have a huge stash and stuff needs using up, and I just like, because of the flow of the layout with all of the pattern papers and the pictures not being on the same level or aligned, I felt like I could put embellishments wherever I wanted, and it helped move your eye across the page. So you see where I put that tag on the left-hand side of the photo? That's where I discovered that, oops, that wasn't adhered down the way I had intended to, so that the tag would be poking out up the top. And I really prefer the tag poking up at the top because most things are either at the top or the bottom of these photos, and not that literally is the only element that is off to the side there. And I knew I wanted to put journaling there, and I wanted it to be a functional tag, and so I'm going to do something about that in a minute coming up. So these are the October afternoon rub-ons that I'm talking about, and see how it breaks up that rigidity of the ski-wampusness of the knot grid of this layout. I just like it softens those lines at the top and the bottom. That was probably a much more succinct way of saying what I was trying to say. So those three spots there have the October afternoon rub-ons, and I am going to use some foam adhesive to pop up this moth, I think it's butterfly moth off of that photo there, because that photo, the top photo of my daughter, is popped, so it needs a little bit of adhesive, pop foam adhesive behind it. Otherwise it sits at a funny angle there. I really like these here and there elements because of the black, and you can see the shadows, and my daughter's transitional lenses are black, and so I felt like I needed some other black to just sort of pull the whole layout together. Not sort of, but really to pull the whole layout together. This, again, that's that popped picture, so elements that are hanging off of it need to have foam so that they don't slide downhill, metaphorically, not literally. And then again, just little pops of black here and there to wrap it all together and pull it all together nicely. And I really feel you can see how that black. So here I am trying to figure out, really, do I have to have it here? And I could have put it behind the photo with us with the masks, but because of the popped photo above it, it wasn't going to work, or it could work, but it didn't make me happy, and I wanted to do what makes me happy, so I decided, well, fine, I'm just going to rearrange the photos, because these are photos without borders. So you see how it ripped the paper? That's how well that thermo web double-sided tape works. And it actually, you see the corner of that photo is ripped as well, and so I'm going to have to find a solution for that. Now the problem is because I've pulled off the paper on the where I want that tag to go, I was worried that as I slid the tag in and out that I was going to run into some snagging, and it wasn't going to travel as smoothly as I wanted, as well as already having adhesive. So I am going to get a vellum pocket. There it is. I'm going to shorten that vellum to the length of the tag there. Just use some double-sided tape to hold that vellum pocket where I wanted it, or the bottom, and then I'm going to again use that double-sided tape so that it sticks nicely, and I can clearly get that tag in and out without a struggle. Now, ideally, I wish I had put that tag more to the left-hand side, and see how I move that cloud over, and so there the tag and the cloud are now closer, but it opens up that wider space for the embellishment in that Bella Boulevard piece of blue pattern paper there. So those are pretty much all the embellishments that I'm going to use. I am going to fight with these stickers because they're clear and they stuck to the thing. So I'm just going to rip my way into them, and I'm going to put fun, and then off camera I'm going to use as stamps, they're typewriter stamps and sun. And then I believe that is everything on the page. I didn't do anything else. Oh, I am going to do that embossing that I talked about, and then actually the journaling is going to be typed on vellum over that blue, and I do use a Gina K rolling adhesive. I put it on the background, and then that way you don't see the dots on the vellum. Somebody had asked me about that in a previous video. So enjoy the close-ups. I hope you are doing well. Thanks for stopping in today. Can't wait to see you again soon. Take care.